Meet Cecelia Miller, an artist and teacher by profession. Her enthusiasm for art dates back to her younger days, sparking a passion for preserving history through art. This time, she has decided to pay tribute to Lusaka, the city she calls home. Her recent exhibition, Going to Town, takes us to the everyday life in Lusaka.
This is an exhibition which I really wanted to celebrate Lusaka and its history. My family has been in Zambia for over 100 years, and so we've really, we really have a lot of history here and have kind of seen the city grow into what it is today. And I think a lot of the times we learn about history from the outside, but we don't look inside, we don't look at home. And so here I really wanted to celebrate Lusaka and celebrate Lusaka's history and hopefully get people to recollect their own memories, just like I did about my family, get people to also reflect on their own memories of their families within Lusaka and Zambia.
Cecilia's family, the Millers, settled in Zambia in pre-colonial times. Her grandfather was pro-independence and enjoyed a cordial relationship with the country's founding father, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda. Depicted on the wall in the gallery, the pictures from the 1960s are a reminder of Dr. Kaunda's slogan of going back to the land.
Obviously, my family date back to being in Zambia from colonial times, but they were always pro-independence. And so when KK was elected as president, my grandfather worked alongside, under him in terms of infrastructure within Zambia. One of the things being water towers, which you can see behind us.
For those that walk through Lusaka, the Freedom Statue is an important landmark. The story behind it is intriguing and is one that must be passed on from one generation to the next. This is why it is depicted here in the gallery.
So two pieces especially which I really think highlight freedom, especially in relation to Zambia and also Southern Africa, is Freedom House and the Freedom Statue. And so both of those celebrate how Zambians were involved in struggle for independence, not only within Zambia, but also outside Zambia. So even though we maybe didn't have that sort of very physical struggle as they did in South Africa, a lot of Zambians were involved in struggle for outside countries' independence, and a lot of those people from those struggles were housed within Freedom House. And then the other statue, Freedom Statue, which many people don't know this, it's actually of someone called Zanko, who was a freedom fighter, and he was told by colonial powers that he could either break his shackles of his chains or he would be shot to death, and he managed to break them free. So that statue is a celebration of him. So although many people know that statue, many people don't know that story. So it was kind of highlighting those things that people maybe might not have been aware of, or at least good for people to remember.
In Sana, the curator of this exhibition, lies a firm believer of the potential which the art industry in Zambia has to contribute to telling the Zambian story as it has blossomed.
So this exhibition is by Cecelia Miller. She's a Zambian artist whose family has been here for over 4 generations. And as somebody who's also from India, I'm really interested in different communities that have come to call Zambia home. And what does it mean to belong? So I think working with Cecelia specifically for the work I do with the archive, which I run called Zambia Belonging, was very important because I wanted to look at the different contributions different people have made in building the city, in also the freedom struggle, but also the type of personal histories that exist that we might not know about. And when we think about Africa Freedom Day, we specifically chose photographs that responded to this for Cecelia to paint, looking at this complex history we've had in Zambia, but also what type of monuments and sites exist till today that commemorate this, and how do they exist in our memory and our present. So for me, it was a combination of looking at belonging with people who have a connection with Zambia, but also looking at what type of images are we looking at to explore this.
There is always a first time for everything. For Sana, the time has come to amplify the voices of African stories through art.
For me, I thought it was very important to put the gallery in a space that reflected that reality. What is the everyday, and who are the everyday people? And how do we bring art to the public space? So strategically putting ourselves in this building, which is a very historic building, E.W. Tarry. It's been around since the 20s. What does it mean for us to return to this part of the city that has in some way for some become neglected? And part of this exhibition also looks at this history, because you witness Lusaka's past over here in the city, but then you also look at how the city has drastically changed when you walk out of the gallery. But the beautiful thing about town is that it's a palimpsest of itself. It's got all of these layers of history that is still very much alive. It's not dilapidating because it's in use every day. So for me, I think that was very important to incorporate photographs that looked at Cairo Road, that look at National Milling, to look at Findeco, and what does it look like today when you walk out of the gallery. So for me, it was very strategic for those reasons, in terms of really turning the mirror to our past, but also our present, and kind of contesting who is art for. And if we think that art is a universal language, then it should be accessed by everybody.
Exposing one's creativity requires courage. This young artist would like to see more young people be bold and take the field of art.
I think we really have to think critically about what freedom means today. I think there's a lot of positives that have come 60 years after independence, for our country specifically, but I think we really need to think about resources and who holds those resources, and how do we take ownership of that, and how do we take pride in that, and how do we look inwards. I really look at this idea of the future of the museums, the future of the archive, the future of education, and social impact starts at home. And for me, this is very important to look at, because that is really where the power lies and where our agency lies. So I think a lot of artists, writers, everyone, I think we need to have a moment of reflection, because the world is moving in a very different direction, and we can celebrate this, but we also need to think very critically about what does freedom really mean.
For Cece, as she is fondly called among her peers, with every stroke of a brush and every line of a pencil results into taking a walk down memory lane.
As I've kind of said a few times, is just to really celebrate us, celebrate Zambia, celebrate Africa as a whole, and our power within, because I think the world is dynamically changing, and I think for a long time we've looked to the USA, we've looked to Europe, and I think now is coming a time where we need to look inward, and we need to see how Africa can become the next stronghold, the next power of the world. And so I hope that we can all join together to make that happen.
As the theme states for the 2025 Africa Freedom Day, it is a year of justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations. This can be documented through art exhibitions in a bid to keep stories alive.